Keaton, I love having you on the show. This is the first time you brought another attorney from the show. So tell me a little bit about kind of what you guys have going on operationally and how Shanna fits into that.
Yeah, definitely. So I really love our dynamic at Texas Suits because we have Garrett, which is Shanna's husband, and we have Shanna, and Garrett's running most of our litigation department, and Shanna runs the transactional department. And they've been doing this for a while, and they're both super duper knowledgeable. And so it's great because we can cover, pretty much all every part of a transaction. And if it goes to litigation, then it can be taken care of too. So it's really awesome to work with both of these individuals. And so, like I said, Shanna's working a lot of the handling a lot of the transactional stuff. I do both. And so I get to work with both Garrett and Shanna on some transactions. And so it's really, really awesome.
And Shanna, can you tell us a little bit about your background, your educational background, and kind of what brought you into the area of law? And also, as a side note, I didn't realize you're married to Garrett, but now I've drawn you do the horse thing as well.
I do the horse thing,
which
yes.
is absolutely beautiful.
We may need to clarify that.
Well, yeah, it's so, on Instagram, I've seen some of those photographs that you guys have had posted, right? It was on Instagram?
Yes, on Instagram.
Oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful thing. I would love to do a whole show just around that.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, right?
It gets into my creative side. And so it actually, just to do a full circle back to your initial question, I grew up on a ranch. So 7th generation Texas rancher. And from there, I jumped into the fashion world. Always wanted to be a top fashion designer. Started a manufacturer in the Philippines at the age of 20. Came back here, and with the belief, you build it, they come. And learned all kinds of things of what mostly not to do, but it was some really great experiences. And I kind of hit a point in my life at the age of 25 to where I wanted to do something else. I wanted some security. I'd been an entrepreneur my whole life, and it's not super romantic, but it was like, why did I go to law school? Because I wasn't sure what else to do. Somebody suggested it. I was told I'd be an excellent transactional attorney. I was already in the sports world through my fashion designing. And so I had the idea of really getting into more of the sports world, helping them invest their money and doing a lot of their transactional in the real estate side of things. And that just kept evolving to when I graduated from law school and passed the bar, higher score than my husband. I accidentally said that.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm not getting in the middle of that.
I remind him every once in a while. Might as well do it publicly.
Don't forget it.
How does he answer that? What does he say? Well, it's not the score there that matters. It's how does he?
He'll figure out.
What's his
something to
rebuttal?
say.
I'm going to say this with full transparency. He is so much better at taking tests than I am. But I studied in terror. I wanted to pass, and he knew that it was not going to be a big deal for him. So I outstudied him.
Oh,
I'll say
gotcha.
that's what it is.
So you guys knew each other then?
I met him in law school, actually the last semester. He was sitting across from me and secured transactions, and then I later secured that transaction.
Wow, yeah.
Well, I'm going to try not to be the dating show, but that is interesting to me, right? Because I like to know how people met, even like you and whenever you met your wife and all what that story is.
Yeah, I was actually sleeping in a cardboard box at the corner of Blanco Road and Loop 410, but we'll get into that later.
Okay, you just had to outdo my story.
Yeah, right.
But you know what? We can't leave the audience hanging and also the co-host, because I don't know the horse story. Everybody knows about the horses, and I don't know what's the horse and Instagram, and what do y'all do with horses?
Yeah, so we can get there, but we're going to have to come back because I don't know what a transactional attorney is, so we're going to have to find that out too.
There's so many things to talk about.
Give us a brief overview of what you do with children and the horses. And
Sure. So I raise Gypsy Vanner horses, and their name derives from the culture that really bred them. Which they're known as gypsies, the Romanians, all in the European district. They were bred to be beautiful, flashy, docile, so gentle horses, and they would pull their homes, their caravans, their vanners. Wow. And through this, I just have always had a love for horses. Like I mentioned, I grew up on a ranch, and so I wanted to do something a little more exotic. I was always with quarter horses, totally different breed. And these gypsies they're so gorgeous. I wanted to share it with the community. And not everybody can have a gypsy van or a horse in their backyard. Yeah. And so I started a production company. And this kind of comes from that fashion era that I had shared with you just a moment ago is I really love the entertainment industry. I love art. I am truly an artist in a lot of ways. And the way I get to express it now is through our productions with professional photography, videography. I'm the creative director, and so I have the vision. I help pull the vision together, and I make the vision happen. But I hire and surround myself with incredible professionals who make it the masterpiece that it is.
Oh my God, I
It is
love that.
truly beautiful
Yeah.
to see it.
So
thank
Keaton,
you.
let me get this straight. If you're an attorney at Texas Suits, you have to own one or two or three other businesses, right? Because I know
Yeah,
you're a
that's
partner in
it.
a moving company. Then he goes, "Hey, look, I'm going to start a coffee company." And, you know, wait a second, man, we're super underachievers here, and you and I think we're getting a lot done by doing a couple of podcasts in a day.
Please.
Well, for the record, I'm starting 3 companies. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah.
We're entrepreneurs. I would say serial entrepreneurs, which is a really wonderful background for your attorney to have that's helping you, the entrepreneur, start your business and grow it. So we understand the business side as well as the legal
Right.
side.
Yeah, all good stuff. All right, so
Transactional attorney. What is a transactional attorney?
Okay, so we do the boring contract work is the easiest way, I think, to describe it. You know, you picture Law and Order and all these TV shows where they depict this really great court scene. That's more of my husband's thing, and I like to stay out of the courtroom when I can. So Keaton and I, on the transactional side, we're going to help make a transaction happen. And that's just to very much generalize it. We may protect a transaction, we may keep a transaction from blowing up, but we're helping with the actual documents that govern these transactions. And so, very simplified, we're contract attorneys, but we also negotiate, advise, counsel around the contract, around the business that's affecting the legalities of its foundation.
So are you two like a team? Is that you work very closely together on certain things that you're doing? Is that
Yeah.
correct? Am I understanding that right?
We do. I mean, we both have separate projects that we work on, but quite often we find ourselves on the same side of a transaction, or we'll both review a transaction, or sometimes maybe I'll prepare the documents for the transaction. Shannon will take a look at it. So we do. We get a partner up on a lot of projects.
It's a nice combination of experience because there are certainly things that Keaton has handled that I haven't, and he has his own finesse and techniques that I may be not as strong in, and so I think we make a really good partnership in that way of just combining our resources, our knowledge, and our experience.
So when it comes to nonprofit work, Keaton, what kind of stuff are you guys involved with? And Shanna as well.
Yeah, well, Shanna has the majority of the nonprofits, so I think she's probably better equipped to talk about
Sure,
those. And
sure.
she's had them going for a while.
So I actually do run a nonprofit myself, and so I have some experience on the operational side of things. But legally, what we help do, just like with any business formation, we're going to help get you set up. And so if you're here in Texas, you're going to be a Texas nonprofit corporation. We'll help with the formation of that. And the reason why it's a little different than forming a regular corporation or other type of a legal entity is you really want your articles of formation to be something that can go to the next step, which is applying for tax exemption with the IRS. And so what we'll do is just help with the whole formation and application to get that nonprofit all the way from nothing into the tax exemption portion. And that really is, it's a very specific area that I work with. But after that, a lot of times nonprofits aren't in a position to keep us on as general counsel. They'll just reach out occasionally, like, hey, we may have some work, or maybe it's just a quick question. But that's where I help, is just let's get you to a nonprofit status and the tax exemption status, which is a great benefit to that organization.
And then there'll be other opportunities. And I know Keaton has been involved with a lot of the nonprofit things I put in front of him. And I appreciate that, both from a personal perspective and then also from Texas Suits, which will lead me into, we're not going to get into it, but I'm going to invite you to come to a tour of the Children's Rehabilitation Institute tomorrow, if you're available. Keaton's been there. You've been there.
I've been there.
Awesome.
And they serve about 350 to 500 kids a year with various forms of disability. And 75% of them have no insurance and no way of covering it. So it's 100% free to them. And then there might even be something we do with the horses.
I was actually going to
kids.
point out last year we donated a production to a beautiful young lady with the Ferrari Kid. It's another nonprofit organization.
I know. I'm familiar because I chaired the gala last year.
Oh my
Ferrari
goodness!
Kid for the 10th annual gala last year.
Were we on stage together?
Well,
at
I
the
probably
same
did
time?
something important too at some point in my life.
I know, right?
Now
Oh,
that
Howie.
Mr. Podcast
Howie, this
is
is-
starting three
it's starting
businesses.
to connect to me now.
Yeah.
We were,
So Manny and I are good friends, and I've been on the board for Camp Discovery, the camp for kids with cancer, for
Yes.
many years. And then
Okay.
he says, if it's not a conflict, I would love for you to chair the gala. And
Yeah.
I chaired the 10th annual gala last year.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love making that connection.
Yeah, and I saw those pictures were amazing of that little girl on the
Well,
horse.
good.
and
So
I was
you
like,
you
oh,
had
yeah, I know that.
opportunity to see our production.
Great.
So this
Good
is
for
serial entrepreneurs at work here. We've literally
Oh,
talked
yeah.
about how many businesses
And how they overlap.
they
I
overlap.
love it.
They do. They do.
I love it.
So speaking of nonprofit work, you're also the executive director of
So live.
So Live.
So live.
tell me
yes.
about that.
Something that my mom started in 2007. The name came from her experience being a patient consultant for a doctor who specializes in cancer. He was working here in the U.S. He took his practice to Mexico so that he could further at a pace that he wished to further at. And in all of her consultations, she would receive, statements of, I don't want to go experience these certain side effects. I ultimately don't want to die. And she found herself saying, so live. Let's do so live. And that repetition of that statement inspired the name. But what inspired the purpose is she created this so that we could share what is really known as unconventional cancer treatments and different practices that has now since expanded into just health and wellness things that people can do at home. And at some point, we're going to expand our sponsorship so we can help people pay for these types of things.
Oh, I love it. So is part of that manifesting in the words you use and your mind helping to heal you and those kinds of things?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Our
great.
mind is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So I've studied and read a lot about this because we all know that our mind can make us sick, right? This psychosomatic illness. You're like, oh, I think I have this. And then you read go to Google, you look at all the symptoms. All of a sudden, by that afternoon, you have all the symptoms.
Oh, yeah.
And so
It's
if
so
that's
true.
the case, why can't the opposite be true? Which is
Yeah.
the words you use, how you think, how you zero in on what your ailment might be and how you overcome it by thinking about it. It's not the only thing you do, right? But food and water and sunlight and rest and meditation and prayer, all these things.
All
Well, and
have
the
to
people you surround
contribute to
yourself
it.
with.
Laughing.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And something that I think is pretty well accepted is the placebo effect. And that really goes into
Right.
that. If you believe that something is going to help you,
Right here.
it's a real thing, but it goes so much deeper than that, to where we can be more proactive instead of essentially tricking our mind into something.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm really curious if you could spend your whole day or your whole week doing something, you could just pick one thing. What would that be?
You're going to ask me this
Yeah.
in front of the Texas
You
Suit
bet.
partner?
I already know
Let's
your
keep
answer.
it clean. I mean, I don't know what's going on here, but
Okay, so here's the real deal. I have been training Keaton so he could take over my entire legal practice, and I can work with my horses and my nonprofits full time to really expand on my creative passion and love for humanity.
I knew that was going to be the answer. I just wanted to hear you say
And
it.
that's why I have
On the
so many
record.
emails in my inbox now.
And there's plenty of time for that. I always say like, oh yeah, if I had to do nothing else, all I would do would be all my nonprofit stuff. Then I get home and I realize my kids need braces. They want to go to Lululemon. They need season passes to Fiesta, Texas. And all, next thing you know, I'm like, oh wait, should I still got to work?
Yep.
Yes, I will. I will say my income is purely based on my legal practice right now as I grow other things, and I'm really grateful that we have partners like Keaton who can, allow us all to expand in our own passions. But he also brings in such a gift to our practice, as I am able to very comfortably partner with him on transactions, and also give him certain clients that I know they'll be in great hands when they're working with Keaton.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Shanna? I mean,